Most people think they've saved enough for retirement until reality hits. Healthcare costs, a long life, travel dreams, supporting family. The truth is, almost every retirement plan I've reviewed shares a critical flaw. It underestimates what life actually costs in retirement. Too many retirement plans are built on neat spreadsheets and not the messy truth of real retirement. So today, I'm going to reveal 3 critical blind spots that trip up nearly 99% of retirement plans, and crucially, what you can do to fix them. Now, my name is Scott Caufield. I'm a CPA and CFA charter holder and the founder of Sophos Wealth Management. So if we get right into it, the blind spot number 1 is the unseen cost of your lifestyle, underestimating your expenses. This is so huge. If you think about a safe withdrawal rate, it's 2 components. It's how much you're spending and how much you've saved. So the biggest and most impactful blind spot I see is underestimating our own spending habits. When I ask people to kind of come up with a budget, an idea of what they are spending, I often see them underestimate those expenses by 30% or more. Part of it is, it's easy to come up with a bottoms up budget and plug in things like, what are my utilities, my cable, my mortgage, car payment. You get all these kind of monthly, obvious recurring expenses, but there's so many additional one-off expenses that are much harder to capture. A lot of times when you have people budget it, they're just wildly off. And 30% is a game-changing number if you're trying to come up with a retirement plan. So this is a huge one. I always encourage people to get a real idea of your true spending. I love it when people will look at their tax returns over the last couple of years, figure out what your after-tax cash flow is, and adjust it for non-recurring items to get an idea of what you've truly spent, backing out what you've saved those last couple of years. And then once you have an idea of what your budgeted expenses are, track them going forward. If you think you're going to spend $80,000, track your credit cards, your banking statements, so on and so forth, and see over the next year how you actually match up. And be careful of doing too many one-off adjustments. Oh, we took this big trip this year. Well, are you going to do those big trips in the future? Travel, hobbies, bucket list items. These are all things that are very expensive in retirement. In fact, there's a great chart that came out of JP Morgan recently, and it shows the changes in spending by age. Now, this is for households with 1 to 3 million in investable assets, a lot of the mass affluent out there. And what you find is there is a real peak in spending years in kind of that mid to middle age to early retirement. So spending actually peaks in your 50s and early 60s. So for those who think that retirement will be a lot less expensive, you might be surprised to find that early retirement is one of the most expensive time periods in your life, at least on average. And this really kind of lines up with the whole go-go years early in retirement, and then the slow-go years, and then kind of the no-go years. And what you find is you've got that trough of spending there kind of in your 80s. And then it does kind of peak up at end of life, primarily because of healthcare, long-term care type costs. Now, the second blind spot is our ever-expanding time horizons. So this is the longevity risk. Now, we're living longer and healthier lives than ever before, which is wonderful. But it also means our money needs to stretch further than most plans account for. So consider this. A healthy 65-year-old couple, so if they're considered excellent health, there is a 43% chance that at least one of the couple will live past age 95. And that's not an outlier. That's a real possibility. This JP Morgan chart right here just shows you some of the probabilities of how long you could live. And you're going to find a couple when at least one is in good health. There's that 43% number I mentioned. If you look at just getting to 90, there's a 73% chance. Even to get to 100, a 15% chance. And that's, I think, based on kind of current medicine. And I just would not be surprised to see that go longer. So do not underestimate your potential for longevity, especially given that, that can be a real tail risk that can throw off your plan. Are your savings designed to last 30, 35, 40 years? A lot of these safe withdrawal rates that you've heard about before, maybe a 4% rule, they are based on a 30-year time horizon. But I find in practice, practice, many people are really only thinking through their 80s to early 90s. Who knows? If you're 65 today, you could easily live into your hundreds, especially if AI and all these other things really do help us expand our lifestyle through better medicine. The third blind spot I see are the unexpected landmines, these lumpy costs. So, these aren't your monthly bills. They're the big hits. It's a new roof, a major car repair, unforeseen medical bills. Even if you have insurance or even with Medicare, it can still be expensive. And then, of course, long-term care. If you get put in a nursing facility or something like that, it can just be astronomically expensive. And another major one too is financially assisting adult children or grandchildren. These aren't all hypotheticals. These are things you see quite frequently, and they can significantly derail retirement plans that don't have any kind of robustness or reserves to deal with these kind of things. Now, an added elephant in the room I want to address is healthcare. So all the other three blind spots, of course, are crucial, but healthcare can probably sink more retirement plans than just about anything else. A lot of people just kind of assume, hey, Medicare is going to cover everything, and it absolutely does not. It might be a great foundation, but it leaves significant gaps. We're talking about deductibles, copay, prescription drug costs, services that Medicare does not cover. So if you look at Fidelity's latest retiree healthcare cost estimate, they expect an average couple to pay $330,000, those are after-tax dollars, to cover their healthcare cost in retirement. So almost $350,000 just to healthcare costs in retirement. And that does not include long-term care. Now, a single person, that would be $165,000 after tax. JP Morgan has another great chart here showing the rising costs expected in retirement, rising healthcare costs. So what you're going to see on the left-hand side of the chart is what you would expect to pay monthly for healthcare at age 65. So it's about $572 total at age 65 per month. They expect that same person by the time they're age 2055 to have to pay $1,611 per month. And that is in 2025 dollars. That is not inflation adjusted all the way out to 2055. So it's going to be much, much more, come year 2055. This doesn't even necessarily factor in some of the downside scenarios. What if Medicare is less generous in the future? What if healthcare costs just go up? What if you have some tail risks and really high costs? It does not cover that real tail risk of long-term care. It can be just astoundingly expensive if you have to pay for daily living assistance at home, or if you're in an assisted living facility or a nursing home. Even if there's just a small chance you end up there, it's just a very, very expensive downside. If 99% of plans get these things wrong and underestimate the true cost, what does a truly resilient retirement plan look like? So at Sophos Wealth Management, that's obviously something we spend a lot of time thinking about, is setting up our clients for success. It starts with a smarter withdrawal strategy. We want to have something grounded in research, designed to adapt to changing market environments, inflation, that should be able to protect you through all kinds of environments. You want to build in some flexibility there. A lot of people like things like the guardrail approach. Some people just want a more conservative starting estimate in terms of what the withdrawal rate is, something that factors into account current market conditions, sky high valuations. Another one too is stress testing for longevity. So, that same JP Morgan study came out and said, you probably shouldn't use a 30-year safe withdrawal rate anymore. You should probably bump it up to 35 years, just reflecting the fact that people are going to live longer and longer and longer into the future. So you want a plan that is robust enough to last you until 95, 100, maybe longer, especially for a married couple thinking that at least one may end up living that long. Another one is just having kind of built-in buffers for a plan, making sure that it is flexible enough for things like home repair, healthcare, travel, helping family. Life does not follow a perfect monthly budget, right? We've got these one-off expenses. What is enough to retire? It is not just one magical number. So think about things in terms of ranges. Have a flexible plan that can change based on your changing goals, needs, and what your portfolio has done. Finally, it's just having a continuous feedback loop, right? A retirement plan is not a set it and forget it thing. It is something that you monitor and just improve as your life and the world and the market evolves. So hope this gives you a lot of ideas. Do not fall into the trap of underestimating your retirement expenses. Do not think that you are going to just drastically cut back your spending so that you can magically retire. Make sure that everything is grounded in, just solid planning. So appreciate you tuning in today. Share this with anyone you think would benefit. Like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.